everyone. My name is Dr. Rolanda Anderson, and today I want to talk about what is an expert panel as well as what is a field test. A lot of people tend to get those mixed up, but they're actually two different things. So, when you are conducting a qualitative study and you as the researcher has decided to create your own questions, not pre-developed questions, but when you decide to create your own questions for your study, then you will need to get an expert panel to review those questions. So if you were conducting a study relating to education, let's say principals or school teachers, something dealing with an education, then that means that you will need to reach out to some experts in the field. Now, the good thing about the expert panel is that you don't have to worry about that conflict of interest. So it could be a family member that you know that may be a school teacher. It could be a friend that's a school teacher. It could be a principal. The only thing that we are concerned with when you're conducting or getting your expert panel together is, do these people that you have on your expert panel have experience in the area of your study? So once you get that out the way, a lot of schools, or the school that I work at, they require the students to get at least 3 experts to review their interview questions or their focus group questions. So once they review those questions, they will provide feedback. Now, there are a lot of instances where the expert panelists will not provide feedback. They just say everything is good as is. They say that these questions that you have on your interview questions are able to answer your research questions. However, sometimes that's not necessarily true. Keep in mind that just because these people say that they are experts in the field does not necessarily mean that they are experts in reviewing interview questions or focus group questions and saying, hey, these questions are going to answer your research questions. However, if you do run across an expert panelist that does provide you feedback, then what you would do is take the feedback from your expert panelists. If they say, oh, well, this question has bias, or this question is not clear, or this question is not going to answer your research questions, then what you do is you take their feedback and make modifications to your interview questions to help better support your study. Now, doing this only allows you as the researcher an opportunity to ensure that when you have your interview, and once you get to the section where you will be doing your real interview that's going to count, right? That you are going to be gathering the information that you need. Okay, so now let's move on to field testing. Now, your field testing, that occurs as well when you're getting ready to conduct a qualitative study. So when you do your field test, that will come after your expert panel. So after you've had your expert panelists to review your questions, you have made revisions according to the expert panelists, then you will move on to your field testing. Now, keep in mind that it is a good note to have more than one expert panelist. The school that I work at actually requires the students to have at least 3 expert panelists to look over their research questions. Okay, so now what the field test will do is take it a step further. So when you do the field test, what that means is now you're going to actually conduct a mock interview or a mock focus group, depending on which one of your data sources is your primary source. So you would only want to conduct a field test from your primary source of data. For most qualitative studies, your primary source will probably be your interview. So you will be conducting an interview, a mock interview with the participant. Now keep in mind, this is going to be a mock interview that should run similar or exactly like it should be when it's time to do the real interview. Okay, so when you get ready to have that mock interview, you want to make sure that you are recording it. You know, if you're using Zoom, or even if you're doing a face-to-face, you definitely want to make sure that you are recording it so you can keep your time. You want to make sure that you are able to transcribe it at the end, because when you're conducting that field test, the thing is you want to make sure that you're able to collect enough information. Now, for most of us, when we are conducting field tests, or when we're doing this mock interview, we realize that we should have asked more probing questions, or we may realize we don't have enough questions. I personally like to have require my students to at least have a minimum of 12 questions, and hopefully that will give them at least 30 minutes of talk time for, you know, the whole entire interview. And you want to have at least around 5 pages of transcript, because you want to make sure that you have enough data. Now, if you give the mock interview and then you realize, hey, I don't have enough talk time, like I didn't have enough questions, and you realize you're meeting only with 15 minutes, then you may decide, okay, well, I need to add more questions to my interview protocol. Or you may go back and listen and say, wow, I didn't ask any probing questions. So I know you can be a little nervous when you're first beginning to do this process, because for most of us, we're not expert interviewers. So doing this for some of us is the first time we've ever given an interview. So then we have to go back and do another one, just to make sure that we are, make sure that we get a little bit more comfortable. Now, one of the things that I have noticed when students conduct these field tests is that they have one set of questions that they're going to ask for their interview, right? You have your spread of 12 questions, and that's what you should be using. Well, then I realized that you are not using the interview questions. What you have actually done is decided to kind of change the questions up a little bit. And I want to let you know that that is not what you should be doing. You should be asking the exact questions that are on your interview protocol, because if you change those questions up, then you're probably not going to get the responses that you need to answer your interview questions, which will mean you will have to start over again. Especially if you have one of those professors like myself that will actually go behind you and read the transcript. Now, I'm going to read the transcript because I definitely want to make sure that you've answered the questions, asked the questions that you said you were going to ask. I want to read the participants' responses to see if those responses are going to help you to answer your research questions. Okay, and then I want to look at the time. How long did this meeting last? Because any little tweaks that you can work out before the real interview, you want to kind of work that out doing the mock testing. Okay, you also want to take an opportunity to, after you have created or completed your field test, is to transcribe. So the easiest way to transcribe is to, like I said, either use Zoom or use this program called Otter. I have a lot of students that use that, and that will transcribe your information, your transcript for you as well. And then that will kind of help you out a lot before you begin to start coding your transcript. So I hope now you have a better understanding between what is an expert panel and what is a field test. Remember, the expert panel is when you are looking for experts in the field. You do not have to be concerned with a conflict of interest of you knowing this person or this is a relative. You simply need to find at least 3 people to look over your interview questions to see if these questions are going to answer your research questions. Of course, you definitely want to let your expert panelists know, hey, this is what I'm doing for my study. This is the problem. This these are my questions. So when they look over your interview questions, they will know what they're looking for. So that is what an expert panelist is, when they look at your interview questions and provide feedback. And then your field test is when you actually do a mock interview to help prepare you for the real interview, to ensure that your research questions are going to answer, that your interview questions are going to be able to ensure that your interview questions will answer your research questions. Okay, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed the video. Bye bye.